Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk, back again with another project using the fabulous Happy Tales stamp set. So that's this one here, gorgeous dog, fabulous sentiments, keep calm and wag on, just for you. A little bit corny, but for anybody who's a dog lover, and particularly if you're looking for something for somebody who's just recently lost their pet, I think their pet's passed on, they've had to have it put down. It's really sad, and there aren't many sentiments around that are appropriate when somebody's lost a pet, but just so sorry for your loss. Even if you didn't use that for somebody who's a pet lover, it's actually a really good sentiment to have on. So that's the stamp set. It comes, or you can buy a coordinating punch to punch the dog out and the little heart, and that's what I've used today. And then I've also used one of our circle punches, which are always a good investment to have in your stash. And this uses the 2 1/4 inch punch, circle punch. So the idea as well of this series is to show you different uses for our lovely wood textures paper as well. A great set of neutral sort of all different wood textures, from kind of limes and beeches and oaks, through to kind of tree rings and more definite effects as well. So I'm using those in my projects at the moment, and it's also to show you how it keeps the weight of a card down. If you're using lots of card layers, it can become quite weighty, and this way, by using DSP, it's actually keeping the weight of that card down a little bit as well. So that's our card. So as you can see, to start off with, we need to make a straightforward card base. And when I find my card, oh dear, I tell you what, I'm having a day today of card making, and every time I go to find my Whisper White cardstock, I put it down in a different place. Anyway, never mind, fortunately there is some more to hand. So you're going to take a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm just using the standard cardstock, although it's a tent fold, because it's this size, it doesn't bend at all, so you can just use straightforward Whisper White. You're going to cut it in half on the long edge at 5 3/4 inches, and for ease, for beginners particularly, but for anybody who struggles with the measurements, I'm going to cut it at 8 inches, because that means we can just score at 4, and then we're just using 1/4 inch increments instead of 8s, which can be easier for people to follow. So we've scored at 4 inches. So that's our card base. We're then going to cut our layers of DSP. So I'm using this dark one here, and I'm going to cut that one to 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. So that creates the 1/4 inch layer that we want. I'm then going to cut our crumb cake, and that's going to come back to 5 1/4 by 3 1/2, like so. And then don't throw away this piece here, because this is going to be our strip that we've got on the bottom, you can see here. And so this I have just cut to 1 inch. So on the right hand side, it makes it easier, you can see, to cut it to 1 inch. So cut it to 1 inch, and then I'm going to cut that to just 5 inches. And then to get the angle, quite simply what I did here was I just cut it at an approximate angle on the one end, and then I used that piece on the opposite end and just cut across, like so. And that way you know that those angles are going to be pretty much the same. Nobody's going to be measuring them, so it really doesn't matter too much at all. So you'll see our basic card construction is coming along. Once we've folded our card base, just reinforce that with a bone folder. And then here are our layers that we're going to put together. Now before we put those together, you'll see that I've stamped all over this in crumb cake with just some paw marks. You could use whatever you had to hand, a neutralish colour. So I'm going to take my little paw print and just and as I've said, when I'm creating my own kind of background, I do tend to stamp off the edges. I turn my stamp as well, so it's kind of, I mean, if you wanted to, you could obviously make this a proper trail of footprints and actually sort of line them up. I just wanted to kind of create that effect of what it's like having a dog in the house at times, particularly at this time of year when it's a bit wet and muddy outside. So I've just stamped all over the background then. I haven't worried. I know that this piece is probably going to be covered up by the strip, so that's what we'll do next. I'm just using my snail for that bit. Managing to get a dimensional background. There we go. I'm just putting that right down at the bottom end, like so. I'm now going to pop that onto my layer of DSP. So this goes straight onto the paper, and then we'll lift that up with dimensionals before we put it on the card front. So, now my dog here, I've actually done him a bit like a Dalmatian. I say him, the dog in our house is a boy, so I do tend to assume that all dogs are boys at the moment. So just using black memento ink it up well and just stamp. If you're at all worried about the impression you're going to get, or you're struggling, use a piece of foam here. Always a good idea with photopolymer stamps, but it's something I often forget, probably because I'm stamping onto a piece of grid paper, and therefore it works quite well. And I've actually got my wrong spots on there. Here we go. Here's my spots. These are my Dalmatian spots. You've got two lots of spots. One's just sort of patches, and then these are the Dalmatian spots. So just line those up with his rump and his ear. I find that works well. And there you go. There's your nice spotty dog. And then if you want a pop of colour, I used lemon lime twist, but you could use whatever colour suited you. Perhaps on this one we'll use some Poppy Parade, give the dog a nice red collar. So pop that in there. So. And then come in with your punch. And just line that up from underneath, like so. And there we've got our little dog. Now you'll see that I've actually punched out the rough with the heart part. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. So with that, what I did was I punched on the scrap the rough fairly close to the edge, but a little distance apart. And that then helps me to come in with the heart and just line up one little rough the heart, and you'll see it's not quite enough space to do a second one, so I just punch that out. So those are our two little hearts that we're going to use in a few moments. We're going to use our circle punch to punch out just a circle paper, slightly different pattern on this one, just like so. Then on a scrap of Whisper White, I'm going to stamp the house and our little roof as well, because you'll see that we've got two elements in here. You've got the solid house for the colour, and then this one which adds the detail of the wood effect as well. So I'm going to stamp this first one in early espresso. I actually stamped it onto some DSP as well to give it a little bit of texture. So just stamp the house there. And then I came in with some crumb cake to give it some infill. So again, just lining that up, you can easily see through. In fact, that one actually I think was worked better than my original one. It's surprising sometimes you sort of come in and do things, and often when I'm fussy cutting, I cut a lot of the excess away so that I can just come in and see here, just what I'm doing is moving the paper rather than the scissors too much. And if you didn't want to have that, you could just cut it straight as well. It wouldn't make much difference, but it might be, if you struggle with your hands at all, then sometimes fussy cutting is, can prove challenging. So, find a way around it. Get somebody else to do it, of course, or we can just stamp direct. So here we've got our background circle, we've got our little house to go, a kennel to go on the front, we've got our dog, and then for the bones, what I've done is I've stamped them in early espresso, like so, and then to colour them, I've just come in with my blender pen, and I haven't used any extra ink at all because I just want a sort of hint of colour, because bones obviously tend to be kind of, well, a bit brown. Certainly in our house they tend to be a bit brown after they've been out in the garden, or they start off quite brown because my dog rather likes smoked bones. So just use your blender pen and just draw a bit of the colour from the ink that you stamped it in, and then you can just trim those bones out. So again, it is a little bit fussy, but they're not too bad. I think the worst bit is this second side, because you haven't got much to hold on the right hand side, on the left hand side. There we go. And so you cut 3 of those out as well. Then all you need is just a little scrap of card to create this bowl. What I've done is I have used the same circle punch that I used to create the background, and I've just taken just a tiny little sliver to kind of give a slight shape, because my dog has a bowl that has these kind of sloping sides. So that's what I was trying to recreate here. So just cut straight across, and kind of there's a little bowl for the bones. Just a bit of fun. Obviously you could make it the other way up if your dog's bowl was different. And now what we need to do is just add these together using some dimensionals. So I'm going to use some mini dimensionals here, and just pop those. They're great for these sort of shapes, where you can pop one on the legs as well. So you just pop one in there, pop one in the middle, and maybe a little bit down by the tail. Might use just a little strip on the side there. So I'll use a little strip of dimensionals on the back of my bowl. Like so. I've got another little piece here, which I'm just going to add to the tail. I'm going to stick a couple of dimensionals on the back of my little kennel. And then attach that to the circle. And what I didn't do on my original, which I'm just going to do now, is just trim. Once I've stuck it on, I'm just going to put it across the bottom. I'm just going to trim that as well. look a bit different. I've got some bigger dimensionals that I'm going to use on here. So I'm going to pop my dog on first. Okay, I've managed to stick my dimensionals to the backing. There we go. So there's my dog sitting nicely on his bowl of bones. And obviously you can create as many bones as you want. I've added some extra here. So with these, I'm just going to pop, it's a useful tip, I'm going to pop on a scrap bit of paper a little puddle of Tombow glue. And then I'm just going to dip the end of my bone into there and stick it in like so. So the bone is kind of stuck at one end. Like so. So a little pile of bones there. And once that wet glue has dried, providing I don't stick it to that one, those aren't going to go anywhere. So all that's left is for you, while that's set aside to dry, just add whatever you want it to the inside. And I'm just going to use my crumb cake ink again to just create a little trail of paw prints up the side of the inside of the card. And then that still leaves me plenty of space to write whatever I feel is appropriate for the person at the time. So we just need to attach that. Just use a bit of snail. Put the front of our cup. Don't put it on upside down. That's usually a good start. Pop it on. And there we have a pair of cards for doggy friends, complete with their bones sitting nicely. Oh, haven't put my rough ruff on. Here's something. There you go. Our last bit. We haven't quite got a pair of cards. We will have a pair of cards in just a moment. Mini dimensionals, great, because they're just so quick and easy. Rough. And obviously you could add as many hearts as you wanted. There you go. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me again soon. Dimensions are on my blog, flutterbyheidi.co.uk, and come back and see me again soon. Subscribe to my YouTube or to my blog to get notifications of new projects and products. And the next one we're going to be doing is this one here, which is this fun easel card, but just a shallow easel, again with the same sort of dog. Keep calm and wag on. So come back and see me soon, and pop along to my shop, heidismith.stampinup.net, to purchase your products. Bye now.